laps to go. Same thing with the advantage of these lapped cars. So as you go back on the right side, very aggressive here. Lap 4, the two Bill Frazier ahead of him. Frazier hit the grass. You hit that tire wall, your day's done. You know, it's lap Williams still trying to get around the Corral team. It's going to and around those at the same time. At the same time, that is Willie Red. Moving on his side. Good him beat us all into Monster's corner. As his right side is going to the ground. Oh, 180, no, 360. Who will yield going into the river? It's not that too wide. It will be no yield. Watch the slow taking up that lane car. He is pushing it to the absolute limit. 26 of 30 to only 4 laps to go. He's going to get the run coming up the top corner. He's going to go up side by side. Going to get the race finish. Who is going to get there first? It's going to be
Gernot has wrapped up another championship, and now it's all for pride. With the pressure off, drivers are free to take whatever risks they deem necessary to get the win. Will it produce another stunner? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 10 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Johan Vandenveld and Urkel Lindstrom. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. It's not often on iRacing you're able to race any of the historic cars on the exact layout it ran in its heyday. For the Lotus 79, that's thankfully still possible here at Watkins, Glen. Why don't we step in closer to see what the circuit has in store for our drivers? Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York, just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time. There you see some of the views around this track, but Johan, this is a place that has seen action for a lot of years here in America. It's seen a lot of different types of cars too.
Absolutely. Racing at Watkins Glen is almost as old as the Pope. It has been going on for decades here, and there's always great racing. If you compare it with European road tracks, I always think that you have Monza, the Cathedral of Speed. Well, this is probably the road course in the United States that you can call the Cathedral of Speed. A lot of interesting racing, I think, in the Lotus 79. I actually saw the race earlier today, and there were some cool trends that you could see in that race. One of the things that you could see was this track is actually a draft track. All the cars stayed close together the first couple of laps, but after that it's almost like seeing wet sand. Bit by bit you saw cars crumbling away to form little mini packs between them. And I think that's something that we'll see in this race as well. So the field will stay together and just crumble once it settles itself. This track is high speed. You need a lot of speed at the end of the straight going into the carousel, but at the same time you need a lot of downforce when you go through the S's and towards the carousel. So the drivers will need to find that perfect balance in the setup to really find the correct answer to both those questions. And one of the things that I saw as well, Joe, is that a lot of drivers are struggling with overheating tires. So that's another thing we have to keep in mind today.
Well, something to watch out for because it is pretty warm out on the track. We'll get to that in a moment. First, let's look at the championship, though. Starting with the Drivers' Championship. As I mentioned, it has been settled. And Bycroft and Wood could still swap positions before the season is over, but it's going to take some really good results from Steve and Matt to falter here at the end. If anything, it's a bit more of a battle for fourth place. Fernandez and Kochi not separated by much between those two drivers. We also have a Teams Championship, the Classic Teams Championship as they call it. Johan, how's that sitting?
Well, as you can see, Tyrrell on top at the moment, 27 points advantage to the Scuderia Ferrari. That is mathematically not sure to grab the title, but I think that you can pretty say that Tyrrell is going for the title this season. However, the battle for P2, that one's heating up because you not only have Ferrari, you have Wolf close by, you have Brabham close by, you have Arrows close by, and especially the team in P5, Arrows. That was the big winner last time around to Solder. They closed the deficit, especially to the Brabham and Wolf Racing teams. Now, I think that we're going towards a very exciting couple of rounds towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And, well, we are in the present, though. Urka, well, welcome up to the booth. I believe you've got the race details ready for us, so why don't you run us down what we can expect in this event?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Yeah, this is 11th round of 12, so this is the second last round. 28 laps here tonight. Open setup, of course. And we have an incident limit 17. 17 means you have a stop and go penalty, I suppose, in this series, yeah. If you go up to 25, you will be disqualified. So keep the car off the track, yeah.
That certainly will be important, although I'm not sure there are many places where they could rack them up around here. With the barriers being so close. Right now in qualifying, Fernandez actually holds the provisional pole. And I see Bycroft actually coming across the line now. He does improve, but he doesn't take a spot. And Gernot Friesche up to the top spot now. So that bumps everybody down one. And that was on Gernot's first lap here, Johan. So you were saying he seemed to lack pace in the race. It certainly doesn't seem to be the case here in qualifying.
No, that was one of the things that we saw in the race earlier today as well. Gernot is incredibly quick in qualifying, or at least he was earlier today, but in the race he seemed to lack a little bit of race pace, especially compared to Bycroft. The interesting thing, however, is that Steve Bycroft is currently sitting in P3, has already done both his qualifying laps, and you can see in the tracker on the left, Fernandez is in between them. It will be essential for Bycroft to immediately pass Fernandez because he has the racing speed, but if he is stuck behind Fernandez, it might be that Friesche will run away with the race.
Now, we talked about it being a little bit of a hot track. Why don't we take a look at that temperature? It's actually 101 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface right now. So we could see some slipping and sliding around. Not what you want in a car like this where it loves to be just sucked straight to the ground with those ground effects. As we watch Gernot Friesche come around to complete his second lap here. Urka, one thing we haven't talked about too is that this is a split race. This is the top split, so we've got the cream of the crop here today.
Yeah, for sure. These drivers are extremely fast for all track basically with this car, so I would suppose we will see a very good racing here and very fast lap times also.
Speaking of which, Friesche goes even quicker, so he extends it to nearly 0.3 of a second over Fernandez. We've got Doby still out there. Trangrade has run both of his laps, so he's done. And Stefan Schlacker. So Doby and Schlacker, the last two to try and get some laps in. I don't think Sam is going to be able to get to the finish line in time with about 30 seconds left. So I do believe Stefan's the only one to be able to complete a lap.
I don't think Slagger will finish this lap. Now you can see him going into the pits. I think he had an off in the boot, so he crashed there. Hopefully for Slagger the race will go better for him, because P16, that's further down than we normally see the Austrian.
All right, and that means our qualifying is over, so let's go through your starting order. Gernot Friesche is on the pole with Sergio Fernandez starting in second. Steve Bycroft, we'll see what he can do from third. He'll be directly behind his rival this season. Kendrick Taylor starts in fourth position, then Nicola Cocci, P5. Teemu Vaskalapi starts sixth today. Peter Koneski in P7, and then John Stevens on the outside of row 4 in eighth. Martin Granberg starts ninth, and Rob Olenek, unusually low for him, in 10th. Johan?
Pablo Suarez starts on the inside of row 6. He's followed by Ovid Trengerate. Barry West starts the race in P13, followed by Keith Herner. Andrew Cancilla a bit further down. He shares row 8 with Stefan Slagger. On row 9 we can find Fabian Den. He's flanked by Timothy Reed. And the last driver on the grid, the only driver without a qualifying time, we saw him in qualifying, that's Sam Dopey, P19.
So everybody now lining up on the grid. They're pretty quickly working their way out there, so we should get the lights up pretty soon. A hot day here for the penultimate round of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. Watkins Glen, a classic track for these cars. Looks like our pole sitter is now out on the grid, so we're waiting on Fernandez to line up. I see Kinsella and Schlacker also doing their last little tweaks on the setup on the car before they get going for today. Now we've got our front row completed with Sergio Fernandez now looking down the hill into the 90. They're certainly a popular place for passing. Everybody is out now. Engines rev, lights are up. Green flag is out. Off the line, it's a good start for Friesche, but not for Fernandez. This is a good sign for Bycroft, who's already got a nose ahead and down to the inside into the 90. Is he able to get the car off the corner successfully, though? He is, and he's going to take that second place behind him. I'm not seeing any sort of incidents, and it looks like it's a clean start.
Absolutely. Bycroft had exactly the start that he wanted, but now Fernandez is really close behind him. The same goes for Nicola Cocci as they go through the S's. This is a draw fest. It's 2 wide at the moment. Cocci is trying to make it 3 wide, but on the inside, Fernandez is going by Bycroft to get a P2, and this is not what he wants, because it seems almost like Bycroft is going to lose another place. Cocci backs out, however, so Bycroft stays on the podium position, but now once again he sees the Williams car, Fernandez in front of him, and he needs to find a way past quickly.
Already, Friesche is able to pull a bit of a gap here. It's almost a second up to them. Look at the mid-pack, though. It is an absolute mess. Martin Granberg with Vaskalapi, and they actually almost make contact coming into the toe of the boot. Still, they're not able to get single file, so it is absolute chaos in the back of the pack.
Great racing in the middle of the pack, but up front is Steve Bycroft still behind Fernandez. You can see on the tracker on the left, the gap between Friesche and Fernandez already over a second. That's a big gap, especially if you need a little bit of draft to close the gap between competitors once you start your pursuit. Bycroft taking a little look on the inside of the penultimate corner, doesn't go for it, and in the final corner he's too far away to try and move. He kind of has to wait for the 90-degree right-hander now, Joe. But if he doesn't move there, he will be a sitting duck on the back straight, so it is, well, at least 30 seconds more that Bycroft has to wait before he can try and move on P2.
Have to imagine that the recently crowned champion is grinning ear to ear as he watches himself try and pull away from Fernandez, but it looks like Sergio got a good run out of that first corner, and as he comes down the backstretch, he's closing down a little bit, so the slipstream seems pretty powerful today, because it's down to 0.8 of a second.
Yeah, this is great from Fernandez, 0.7 of a second. He even wants to reach the carousels. Fernandez is actually closing the gap, so that's good to see. And it will also be good news for Bycroft, who just can follow the lead of Fernandez and doesn't really have to put any pressure on him, but just follow in the draft to close the gap to the leader. Now, a quick word about Kinsella. You can see him currently driving around to P19. He was a few positions up at the start, but he didn't start on the grid. He started the race from the pit lane, and that's why he's currently trailing in P19.
We've had a great battle in the mid-pack between Granberg and Vaskalapi for 7th position. They were once again side by side through both the carousel and the chute, but you can see they've got it sorted out. And they're actually teammates here. Granberg got the best of Teemu for now. if they start fighting again, look at how many cars are stacked up behind them. Stevens, Suarez, Trangrade, Olenek, even many more behind them, waiting to pounce.
Very good start of the race. No problem for anybody, so good job all drivers.
They come across to complete another lap. Frisha is kept under at least a little bit of threat from Fernandez, who's got it holding at about 0.8 of a second. Let's see if the slipstream does any better. Bycroft got a pretty good run here. Is he going to go on the attack potentially? He starts to reel him in. It's down to 0.2 of a second. Now you can see it by car lengths, down to a single car length between them, down to the inside. And that red Ferrari has got the desirable line. He's going to slip into second place. Now, can he go off and run down Frisha?
I'll be cynical, but I don't think that was a real overtake. I think the two of them are working together. It almost seems like, well, Fernandez obviously didn't go to the inside to defend. It almost seems like he just let Bycroft by there and take that P2 position, just thinking like, wait, you know what? You gotta go on Frisha. Let's see if you can close the gap any quicker. At the moment, the gap is 1 second, so it doesn't seem to really have brought him anything yet. Let's see how the gap develops in the coming few corners.
Erka, we've seen in some other cases, like at places like Monza, you can kind of play leapfrog to go a little bit faster over a lap. Do you think that's doable here, that those two could maybe use that to this effect?
I think you... Oh, that's really difficult. I would almost say no. I think that the back straight is almost too short to try a leapfrogging maneuver. If you really are trying that, you need to be in constant communications with the other person and really to perfection you have to complete that maneuver. It's going to be extremely difficult to do that. I don't think that's really going to happen to both of them. And you can actually see that once they cross start-finish line, Bycroft, he does put in the quickest lap time of the race, and that was probably helped by the draft he got from Fernandez. But the gap between him and Frisha is still 1 second as they're going through the S's.
We'll jump back up to them. We were watching that battle for seventh still in the mid-pack, which has stayed single file for a while, so they've calmed down slightly. As they come down the backstretch, you can see the field starting to spread out now. Only 19 cars here today, so we shouldn't expect traffic to be as big of an issue around here. Riding on board with our leader, looking under the rear wing as we can spy Bycroft. Now, here's what's interesting is he's starting to drop Fernandez slightly.
It almost is seeming like that. The gap between the two is 0.7 of a second, so it seems like the gaps are developing. However, let's go back a little bit to P11. There's a nice battle happening there between Pablo Suarez and Rob Olenek. Two of them just went side by side through the carousel. Now they're single file again, so they just are calming down a little bit as they're going through the boot at the moment. There's some good battling going on. We've mentioned it before in this midfield. Martin Granberg in P7 actually misses the apex there by quite a margin, so that allows Teemu Vascalampi to close the gap. You can see the gap between those two drivers only a half a second. And that's just holding John Stevens over Trangrade, Suarez and Olenek back. 6-car battle for P7.
Certainly is stacked up back here. Stevens towing along Ove Trangrade. Still waiting for an opportunity to try to get involved. Looking like a bit of a gap now spreading between Granberg and Vascalampi. Let's see if that goes away down the backstretch here. They're not too far behind Kendrick Taylor as well. Ooh, a very good exit there in those two white cars. Trangrade is closing up quickly on Stevens. I think we'll have a pass back there for 9th position. Trangrade putting the gap down to less than a car length now as he follows in the tire tracks. There he goes, popping out to the inside. Same thing behind him. Nope, not quite. I thought Olenek was going to have a go, but still, even Trangrade can't get the pass done. Way too wide for John Stevens. He's out in the marbles, and that actually holds up Rob Olenek, who has to take evasive action.
Yeah, John Stevens losing 2 positions there. I don't even think that over Trangrade was trying to stay behind John Stevens. I just think that Stevens took way too much speed in the carousel and stayed for a moment in front of Stevens, but in front of Trangrade, but in the end he had to give in. Rob Olenek, poor Rob, he actually was the loser in that battle. He had to step on the brakes to avoid Stevens as he came back, but he didn't lose a position, and Stefan Slager is still far away. He won't be able to threaten P12 just yet.
Let's stay with this fight, but just an update. You might notice at the top left of your screen, that Bycroft's close it down to half a second on Freesia. He was very fast this last lap. So I think he might have something on Freesia in a one-on-one fight. Urka, I almost wonder if there's a little bit of a difference in setup here, because we've seen that in the past that Bycroft might be a little stronger towards the end of the race.
Yes, it's possible. Some drivers will try to go with a little bit more downforce, so their tires will last a little bit better also in that way. But yeah, Bycroft is very, very fast now, 34.6 the last lap. So I think it's going to be a very good battle.
Steve's got it down to now 0.2 of a second. That slipstream once again allowing him to close down as we watch them swing it through the chutes. Certainly looks strong through some of these corners. This is where that downforce will shine if you've got it on the car. Back in the mid-pack though, Stefan Schlacker has got a little bit of a problem behind him. Look at this.
Yeah, there's a whole cackle of cars behind him. Barry West, Keith Herner, Sam Doobie, Fabian Ben, and even Timothy Reed. So 6 cars there as well for P13, all close together. It seems like Schlager is quick enough to keep Barry West and co behind him for now, but he's under a lot of pressure as well, and it really doesn't allow him to close the gap to P12 in front of him. So we now have basically 2 6-car groups fighting for P7 and P13 respectively.
Boy, he was way off the apex coming through the heel of the boot there. Still, Herner's not able to do anything with it. Herner with a little bit of an off, and there goes Doby having to weave to the side to get through. He is going to get the spot cleanly. Off pace, Herner looks off his mark, and Fabian Don is not able to get by. But that is going to be a swap for 14th position. Let's watch it one more time as the tree, unfortunately, goes by just as we see him go off course. Great heads up by Doby though.
Yeah, just a little bit too much speed, I think, or too late steering towards the apex from Keith. Misses the corner, goes on the grass, and when you try to put the power down, the car gets very, very squirrely. And as you said, great avoidance from Sam Doby there to avoid Keith Herner. Loses one position, but he is in the draft of Sam Doby now, and is actually able to close the gap. So he loses a position, but in the end, he doesn't lose that much.
As this was happening, Vascalompi had a go at Granberg, but it didn't quite work out. So Granberg holds on to 7th. We're watching the battle for the lead on screen right now. Freesia being chased by Bycroft. He gets it down to about 0.2 of a second at the end of the backstretch every single time, Urka. It just doesn't seem to be quite there for Steve yet.
Yes, he's very, very close, but it's not enough in the slipstream there. But I don't know really. It looks like Freesia has much more lower downforce because it's so much. He can really keep Bycroft.
Yeah, certainly seems good at keeping him behind him. I think both Reed and Doby. Yeah, Sam Doby's off track with some damage, and this is where he got that position before. Oh, it looks like he's going to goose it a little too hard coming off of turn 9.
Yeah, it's almost a copy scenario what Keith did. Although he didn't touch the grass, he just went a little bit too aggressively on the power, lost it, and contact with the wall like that, that's probably race over for Sam Doby. He's still trying to get it to the pits, but getting it into the pits, the car craps too much, spins it around, so it seems that the race is over for Sam Doby. Back to the lead, however, Bycroft and Freesia are still no still. Now this is one thing that we saw earlier today as well, a few hours ago, when these two were fighting for the win there as well. Bycroft was slower in qualifying, but quicker in the race. And in the race, he was just following Freesia for a while, not really trying that hard to get in position, it seemed like, just waiting for his moment. And that's also one of the things on this track, because you can pass them, but the draft will be important once you have made that pass. So you can overtake him, but it doesn't really mean it's done. You need that 1 second, 1.5 second gap afterwards, kind of immediately, to consolidate the overtake that you do. And for now, Bycroft is just waiting for his moment to pounce at Freesia.
We had to change her position down in 11th. Rabo, unfortunately, got passed by John. That happened around the carousel and the chutes. And because of them fighting, they've lost touch to Pablo Suarez ahead of them in 10th. That's something you got to watch out for, certainly in a momentum track like this. As you can see them coming back onto the front stretch, a lot of ground to make up. In fact, it's a whole second and a half to that number 15 car in front of them.
Yeah, but this is maybe something that Rob Olenek actually would like, because now the car in front doesn't have the draft. See that we have a battle for the lead up front. Gernot Friese this time around. Gernot went defensive going into the carousel. We could see the last bits of that. Him all the way to the right side of the track trying to keep Bycroft behind him. It seems like Bycroft has the bit between his teeth now, Joe.
That's the closest we've seen Steve all race long. Try and take this lead. They go through the boot section now and up and over the crest. This is one of those critical corners coming off of a slow turn, steeply uphill. Both of them just about even on the power. But look at Steve now, poking his nose in, showing himself in the mirrors, trying to get in the head of the multi-time champion.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear from Friese how much of a difference that makes. If you already have won the championship, if you've already been that dominant this season, if poking your nose out here and there actually gives him some nerves, I really doubt that. But Bycroft is trying though, and you can see just visually as well that he has the speed. The gap between the two is less than 0.3 of a second, and now going towards the first corner of the track. He's not even following the draft, Joe. He's just keeps showing his nose. I don't think he wants to be too close once he reaches the corner, and this is really where you have to make the difference. Be close once you reach the S's. Try to be very close, and then once you reach the top of this corner, top of this crest, that's when you want to be fully in the draft. Get an overdrive and go to the outside. It's Friese who defends the inside, but Bycroft on the outside. If we have a lead change for sure, but can Bycroft stay in front as they reach the carousel corner? Friese slots back in, but can Bycroft hang on the outside? It seems like he can, and especially if the next corner is to the left. Bycroft to P1.
10 laps in, and we have a new leader, Steve Bycroft, up to P1. Friese holding behind. One thing we haven't covered is that these two are stretching away from the rest of the pack, even though they've been battling a bit. Fernandez is about 3.5 seconds back. In fact, our camera shots aren't even really showing him, except for very wide ones. He is way back there already, and we're not even halfway through this race. There's the Williams now, essentially racing on his lonesome on the bottom step of the podium.
Absolutely, he's 5 seconds away from Nicola Corsi, so I don't really think that the Italian can put any pressure on Fernandez, and I think that Fernandez is just hoping for some drama between Bycroft and Friese in front of him that will give him a win, because otherwise it will probably stay here. Meanwhile, P7, nice battle there happening as well. Vascalampi getting closer to Martin Granberg. So coming around the hairpin there, it seems like Granberg is just, well, he's staying in front of Vascalampi. He's not moving away from Vascalampi.
Yeah, they've been stuck in this position for quite a while. I'm actually kind of amazed that this train hasn't changed order, because Trangrade's still where he was, and so is Pablo Suarez. Granted, it has narrowed down to 4 cars because they had Olenek and Stevens in there earlier. Unfortunately, some problems have caused them to fall back as off the corner. That was a wide exit there for Vascalampi. Trangrade knows it. The Norwegian is looking like he might pounce as they come up through the S's. He maybe caught him a little bit too quickly now as he's right underneath that rear wing. Down the backstretch, covering off the inside. Vascalampi going to force him the long way around as they come up to the carousel. And Teemu looks like he might have him covered off, unless this is a brave move from Trangrade, and the Norwegian is very strong on the brakes into this corner. Can't quite make it happen though.
He did his best though. He kept it as long as he could there, but at the end of the corner, Vascalampi was just an inch ahead, and that helped him to stay in front of Trangrade. A nice Scandinavian battle here between the Norwegian and the Finn. But don't forget about Suarez, who's just following it, licking his lips and seeing the hard battle in front of him. Just waiting for a mistake, a little gap to put his nose in. And also Rob Olenek, who's maybe a few seconds behind, will see this with a smile on his face, because this battle might allow Rob Olenek to just close the gap down to P10 in front.
I think Granberg is liking this as well as he continues to gap them. Teemu Vascalampi under threat now. We kept wondering if we were going to see a change of position, and it's almost looking imminent the way things have been this lap, except Trangrade, slow through the penultimate corner, falls back a little bit, exactly when he wants to be closer, trying to set up for the exit of turn 1. Let's see if Teemu can be any stronger coming out of here. Last time, this is what set up the problem for him. Just going a little bit too far over the curbs. That looks a lot more tidy.
Yeah, and especially Suarez, who was just very conservative through P1, not tracking his car out as much, and that you can immediately see just kills his speed that he takes towards the straight.
Let's take a look at 13th, Stefan Schlacker, who's not done too badly, starting from 16th, but he might lose a spot here because Barry West is looking on him, jumps to the inside. Can he complete it though? Nope, not quite there. It looks like Stefan is going to be chopping him off at the nose. And wow, look at the wash there, Urka. As soon as he came across him, West was way out on that corner.
Yeah, I think Stefan is, he had very good speed in the straight and very good, defend. He just keep the inside line, and it's so hard to go outside there and just pass. So let's see.
The other thing is, I'm looking at the temperature, Urka. It's up to 108 degrees. We're racing in the middle of the day. It's just past noon here, virtual standard time. And look at the wind, too. This actually looks like pretty horrid conditions out there.
Yes, it's 42 degrees in Celsius, so it's very hot. So and the wind really, it can really slow you down in the back straight. And if it's, it depends if it's going to change in the direction, but yeah.
We take a look at the lead. Interestingly, even though Frisha hasn't dropped off by a lot, he also hasn't been able to hang very close with Bycroft here, Johanna. I was watching as soon as he made that pass, just glancing, and it seems like here in this section, down in the boot, he starts to pull away. It's only the draft that I think that's keeping Gernot in with him.
Yeah, absolutely. They started this lap with around 7/10 of a second between them. Once they reached the carousel, only 2/10 of a second. So that draft and the top line, the straight line speed of reaching really allows him to stay in the race. But I think once Bycroft can break that draft, I think he's away.
He's going to be looking for a mistake from Gernot. He hasn't been able to get one quite yet to see if he can snap that toe. As you can see, still staying right in line. Let's jump a little bit farther back once again to Granberg, because Vascalampi not only has shaken Trangrade off a little bit, he's regained the ground on Martin, and the Scandinavian, unfortunately, is going to be dealing with a little bit of pressure here.
Oh yeah, he actually takes the hairpin a little bit wide. That will not help Granberg, I think, and that will also bolster the morale of Vascalampi a little bit once he sees that the driver in front is starting to crack a little bit under pressure there. Going through the last corner, Vascalampi has a gap of around, I think, 4 or 5/10 of a second to the car in front. This is a perfect gap that you kind of need once you come out of turn 1, because then the draft through the S's and through the back straight will really pull you closer towards the carousel corner. Vascalampi cannot really sit on his laurels, however. His over Trangrade isn't that far away.
That was a great exit from the number 6 car. Granberg just pulled away coming out of the 90. That's going to deny Vascalampi a chance to really have an attack down into the carousel. You can see he's just not quite there, although he's going to close in to about 2 car lengths, and then everybody gets on the binders. A little bit wide through this banked corner. Martin Granberg, not the smoothest of turns, and that actually helps Vascalampi a lot here.
Yeah, twice in less than half a lap. So maybe Martin is just struggling with the temperature on the track a little bit. High tire trams was something that we heard the drivers complain about earlier today, and maybe he's struggling a little bit with that as well. Meanwhile, Vascalampi is just profiting from it and closing the gap, just putting pressure on him. How about we put the camera for a few seconds to the people in front, especially Peter Konechny and Kendrick Taylor. Those are 2 drivers that we haven't really spoken about yet. But the 2 of them are having a nice battle as well for P5. There's around half a second between them. It stays half a second between the lap. Taylor is not really able to close down the gap even more, but the 2 of them are basically on a rope fighting for P5 at the moment.
These 2 Americans are just stuck in a stalemate right now as they come down the front stretch. Kendrick, I'm sure, would love another top 5 in his stats. He's going to need a good exit here. He wants to have an opportunity on this. We're just past halfway in the race now. And I don't think it's there this time for that number 8 machine. He is going to get the toe, so this will certainly help his lap times, but You can see that blue and white car up ahead, not getting as big as you would like in the windscreen. As this is happening, I've noticed that Freesia has now fallen back to 9/10 of a second. I think Bycroft might be able to finally shake him with a good enough lap here.
I wanted to say the same. Once they reached the carousel, there was only 7/10 of a second between them. If you compare that with only 2/10 of a second between them a few laps ago, you can see that Bycroft is slowly but surely breaking the gap to Freesia behind him. Bycroft just needs to be consistent now. He has shown that he has the race pace when he's on his own. And if he can just keep his head down, focus, don't make any mistakes, he will create a bigger gap to Freesia, make sure that the draft is broken, and just extend his lead from there.
We've been waiting for this pass for so long, we'll have to watch it on replay now, but Vascalampi finally got past Granberg, and it was a slipstream pass at the end of the backstretch. Let's take a look at it here. It's actually opened the door a little bit for Ove Trangrade. You're going to see at the end of this replay that he had an opportunity to maybe get another position. There's Vascalampi popping to the outside. There's Trangrade in the red and white machine as they go side by side. Brave stuff to try and make this work. And in the end, it does finally give Teemu 7th place.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, sorry.
I just wanted to say that I'm curious to see if Teemu actually can use this overtake to extend his gap now. He has been struggling to get by Granberg for 15 laps. Can he extend the gap to the driver behind him, really consolidate that P7 that he currently has here?
Yeah, I think now we will see what is the pace of Vascalampi. That pass was very beautiful. Outside line there, it's quite brave.
And Olenik's going to get Suarez here. I thought he had dropped off this battle, but he reeled him back in, and now he got the spot in the exact same manner as we just saw with Vascalampi around the outside of the carousel. So Suarez demoted to 11th, Olenik back up into the top 10. That tells you how steep the competition is here, because Olenik is usually a top 5 driver in this series. We've got so many drivers that are such high I-rating today that a top 10 is a struggle for this orange machine.
Absolutely, but also a lesson for us to never write off Rob Olenek. Even if he drops off a few seconds, he just fights his way back to the pack and actually is completely mingling himself and is looking at the rear of Ove Trangrade, trying to get by.
We jump back to Granberg here because his woes are not over. Ove Trangrade still close on him, even though Trangrade's got Rob Olenek here. Ooh, and Olenek looking like a good run. Is he going to take the move down to the 90s? Sometimes that's not always the smartest thing, but he's going to go for it. He wants a spot. He seems to think that he could get a good run, and no, it's not quite there. It slows both of them up, and already that stretches the gap up to Granberg for both of them.
Yeah, this might help Suarez behind him, who was the only one of these 3 cars to actually get a decent run through turn 1. Olenek will be very close to Ove Trangrade, who now doesn't have a draft buddy. He goes to the inside to defend, but he has no one there, so he will lose the position to Rob Olenek. Meanwhile, Suarez only can close the gap, and he's not close enough. He takes a little look, but like I said, not close enough to try and move an Ove Trangrade. He was back to P10, Olenek to P9.
Now Suarez going to take a little bit of a peek down into the chutes, but it looks like Olenek's able to stop the bleeding there. Or is he? He gets a bad exit off that corner, continuing to plunge downhill to the lowest part of the circuit, around the outside. Suarez going to try and make it the hard way, and I think he's got it.
Beautiful work. Beautiful work there from Suarez, hanging around the outside. He will lose a little bit of touch to the driver in front, but what a move from him just pass Ove Trangrade, get a position there around the outside of the top.
Fair play from both drivers, because Trangrade kept from washing out into him. And so just great racing all around as we continue to watch Olenek here, who's now up to 9th. And wow, he's spying 8th. You weren't kidding here, Johan, that you can't write him off, because Granberg might be past here, depending on what kind of exit we get from Robbo.
Yeah, and it seems like just Granberg cannot really follow the pace of the drivers behind. Last time around he lost around 1.5 tenths to Vascalampi, and you can see that the gap between those 2 drivers is growing. Meanwhile, Olenek, he had a 35 0.7, almost 4 or 5 tenths of a second quicker than the car in front. And that's helping here as they go out of the S's onto the back straight. On the inside is Granberg defending, but will Olenek have more than enough speed to put it side by side through the carousel? He's trying to, Joe. He's trying. He brakes very late. The car's sliding, trail braking a little bit. He gets it slowed down, but still side by side as they go down the chute a little bit over the grass. And that means that Olenek loses very important speed that he needed to make that pass. He has to settle for P9 a little bit more, but it almost looks like he immediately can put another move on Granberg. Very, very close there as they reach the toe. I thought it was a rear end for sure. This is great news for Vascalempi, who can drive away a little bit, but Olenek is trying to get that move done as soon as possible to prevent the Finn from driving away from this pack.
So Martin Granberg under threat for the second time. Can he deal with this one a little bit better? Ooh, bit of a bobble coming through turn 9. Olenek sees it. He closes in, but it's rare you see passes here into the penultimate turn. He's not going to try it. In fact, he washes out in the heavy draft of the car ahead through the corner. He's going to have to get back up to that gearbox once more as they all split apart.
Yeah, but I have to say, this gap between Olenek and Granberg is probably what Olenek wants, because I said it before, this is around the distance that you want so you can draft towards the car in front, not too early that you have to let go of your throttle. This is probably the distance that you need to make a pass once you reach the carousel, and you can see through the S's the pink or the orange car just getting closer and closer. I don't think that he had enough speed through the S's there, and Granberg will be helped a little bit as well, because I think he gets a whiff of draft from Vascalempi in front. And you can actually see Granberg is very sure of himself. He doesn't even cover the inside. He doesn't reach the apex as well as Olenek does, and Olenek takes way more speed out of the carousel. He puts it to the inside there as well as he goes down the chute. I don't think that Granberg knew where he came from.
Oh, and it didn't quite work out. I thought he was going to have it there. Still, he is on the attack, just sending it in wherever he sees an opportunity. He's got a good run here coming off of the toe of the boot. Could he maybe try one into the heel? He looks a little far back here, and he's not going to try it quite yet. Sets himself up for a little bit later. Let's stay on this fight, but just an update. Bycroft has now broken the draft to Freesia. It's about 1.5 seconds back there to the number 1 machine. I think unless we get a mistake from Steve, that battle seems to be over. They come out of the penultimate turn one more time. Rob has looked like he's got Granberg on the ropes a couple times, but just isn't able to finish off the pass. This is for 8th place again, and Rob started this thing in 10th, so he's only one position up from where he started.
Yeah, but that doesn't really tell the entire story, because I think that over half of the battles that we've seen today are battles that featured Rob Olenek, and well, this one is no exception. Once again, as he reaches the exit of the SS, he has so much more speed, almost 3, 4, 5 kilometers an hour more. He goes to the inside of Granberg, who's not defending as he reaches the carousel, but Olenek is too far away to put it side by side. Granberg once again doesn't reach the apex, and you can see that Olenek takes way more speed on the corner exit. This time around he is not able to put it on the inside of the chute.
Ooh, coming off, this is really good here. Down into the toe. Oh, trying to find a way to get through, and he gets it to the inside. Look at that. I thought that he had his momentum too much interrupted by Granberg, but Urka, he made it stick.
Yeah, it was very, very nice.
And it's really the corner exit that makes a difference for Rob Olenek, because in 3, 4 corners in a row, he's in the middle of the corner, you think, that's the end of the battle for now, but then he just blasts himself out of the corner like he just suddenly found 100 horsepower extra. It's great how Rob has set up his car and is really paying dividends in the battle.
For a second, I thought that Suarez was also going to get by Granberg this lap, but he falls back a little bit. Trangrade in there as well. Don't count him out. As they come down into the 90, let's see who gets the best launch of this group. Looks like Olenek actually very strong off the corner. Granberg not quite as much, so Suarez starts to pull him forward as we ride on board with Trangrade, who's also using that double draft of the cars ahead. Up to the top of the hill and onto the back stretch now. Not a lot of top speed from Suarez here.
No, and it seems like the one with the highest speed at the moment is Trangerate. It is not enough for him to actually get close enough to put it on the inside of Suarez. Meanwhile, Rob Olenek, he's not driving away that much yet compared to Granberg. Actually, now he goes through the laces. It seems like he picks up a little bit of speed. I'm wondering though, how much of a speed advantage will Rob Olenek have compared to Vascalampi in front of him? Is he able to close the gap down to the fin?
I get the sense that Granberg is struggling for grip. He was off the apex again down through the toe of the boot. So much so, Suarez had to back off on the exit of the corner so that he didn't run into him. So, I mean, we've been talking about this temperature a lot, Urka, and the more I watch Martin, the more it seems like that car is sliding more than he wants.
Yeah.
Up in fifth, Peter Konecki and Kendrick Taylor have not been able to get apart from one another. Every once in a while, I'll poke my nose over there, and Kendrick has gotten it down to 2/10 at time, but just doesn't seem like he's got enough to maybe get by him, even though he can catch him.
Yeah, that's really interesting to see. As they actually go through the S's, it doesn't seem like Taylor is close enough to actually try and move. But let's go back to P15, because that's also a nice battle. Although these two drivers have just dropped off a little bit from each other. Commentator's curse there. Fabian, Den and Timothy lead these two drivers are. Fabian has been put under pressure by Timothy for the last couple of laps, but he has been able to stay in front. But you would almost expect Timothy to mount a little bit more of an attack soon and be able to get Fabian. He has been trying to test him out, see where Fabian is quicker. And it seems like Timothy at this point of the race just has a little bit more race pace over the car in front.
You know, what's interesting is I was trying to check to see if we had any hard chargers, and there really aren't many people who've made a lot of ground in that sense. I think the most we've got is like 3 positions up.
Yeah, you have Stefan Slager who gained 3 spots, maybe Fabian Den who gained 2 spots. And I have to say both of these drivers have been helped by the retirement of Sam Doby and the fact that Andrew Kinsella started from the pitch. The only thing to say is not a hard charger, but the opposite, maybe a hard dropper, which is John Stevens. He had a great qualifying position in P8, especially if you compare it to the iRating that he has. But he has just been dropping race pace wise, so it seems like maybe the setup that John Stevens had was one setup for qualifying, not so much for the race, because he has dropped 4 positions so far.
Did we have a change for position here? Oh, looks like, no, we're looking at the battle for 15th between Don and Reed. I thought I had saw that Trangrade got passed by Suarez, but he was behind him already. So as we watch now between these two down the back stretch, Trangrade closing in a little bit. That's the number 15. Sorry, not P15 that we're watching. As Suarez is going to stay ahead one more time. He's fallen off a little bit from Granberg. Looks like Martin's recollected himself and is trying to focus forward.
It's good to see that Martin can really get back up the car. It seems like he was just dropping down the order, but it's good to see that he got back in control of that car and can just put his nose forward again. I'm also curious to see what Over Trangerate can do. It has been, I feel like Over Trangerate this race, Joe, has been on the attack all race long. He has had cars in front, and at the moment he's on the back of a pack. How much further can he punch himself forward? At the moment you would say, I don't think that he can go that much further, because the drivers in front seem to have the same amount of speed as the Norwegian, and he doesn't really have the overdrive on, for example, the back straight to force a move towards the front.
He really chucked that car into there. I thought he was actually going to lose it as we ride on board now. Granted, the Norwegian's kind of notorious for this sort of driving style where it's let's say brave is the way he likes to drive.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what he is known for. And I think that you have to be brave as well here at Watkins Glen. You really have to get as much speed as you can through the corners, especially corners like the carousel where these drivers are going up. Meanwhile, let's go a few positions in front. It's actually a move from Kendrick Taylor on Peter Konecki. Doesn't seem like Kendrick Taylor can put it side by side through the carousel, but I think this is the first time that we've seen this car side by side. So with only 5 laps to go, Kendrick sees that the tally is just clicking down. He knows that if he wants a top 5 position, he needs to get a move on.
That car, I mean, he was right underneath him at the top of the hill. Usually that means that you're going to just blow by, but you're right. He had trouble once he got side by side trying to finish up the pass. So Kendrick Taylor may be putting a little too much wing into this car. Only 5 laps to go. He's running out of opportunities.
Ooh, Fabian Dan seems to have had a problem in the carousel. He's very slow at the moment. Some contact between him and Timothy Reed. No, not this time around. It seems like Fabian just lost it on his own there, under braking, trying to get the car slowed down and stay in front of Timothy Reed. Just spins it around.
I was going to say, let's look at an onboard. We've come back live. Timothy Reed did a great job just picking his spot carefully and getting around that incident calmly and coolly, because he so could have gotten wrapped up in that unnecessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. Good race from Timothy Reed, for sure. Gaining 3 positions so far, working himself up to P15. He's not even that far behind Barry West at the moment, who had a moment a couple of laps ago and lost a few seconds.
Yeah, guys, one thing I want to say is that this has been very, very clean race. Not much errors, driver mistakes. So this is one of the reasons why no any hard chargers basically in this race. Very good racing.
Was over trigger rate, goes drifting through the carousel there. Almost a Scandinavian flick that the Norwegian tried there. You're absolutely right, Urke. There hasn't been, well, apart from the moment that Sam Doby had in the little spin off Dan a few moments ago, no crashes, no spins whatsoever, and that, you know, doesn't help the drivers in the back of the field to move forward. But it's also good to see a lot of. It doesn't really mean that we haven't seen any battles though, Joe. We have seen a lot of fighting. Just all the battles were, well, with a good result in the end.
Absolutely. And I think that was kicked off by Suarez going a little wide. Up ahead of them, Vascalampi has been caught by Rob Olenek now. We ride on board with Robbo, and he's got it down to 0.6 of a second on the fin with only 3 laps. Is it 2 laps left? No, it's 3 laps left, so that is correct on screen there. For these 2 drivers, I wonder if Rob is going to be able to pull him in close enough to be able to attack. If so, will Rob be... No, that'll be only up 3 positions yet again. Seems to be the glass ceiling for the drivers that they can't get through in terms of climbing any higher.
One thing that we really haven't noticed yet is that Vascalampi and Olenek are closing the gap to P5 and P6. Konieski and Taylor are being reeled in 3/4 tenths a lap. Now, I don't think that's really going to be a factor that Taylor or Konieski will lose a position to the drivers behind, unless Peter and Taylor will start fighting with each other. If they start losing time, Vascalampi and Olenek have the speed to close the gap.
We watch those 2 now. Oh, way wide into the corner. A late, very late apex for Peter Konieski, and it doesn't seem to have worked how he wanted, because Kendrick Taylor closed a lot of ground through there as they come up through the toe of the boots. If Kendrick's going to do it, he's got to do it soon, because like you said, Johan, if Teemu catches them, this is going to explode into what, about a 6-car fight here?
Something like that, yeah. Less than 2 seconds it is now between Taylor and Vascalampi, and last time around 0.3 of a second, you would almost see, maybe with the draft, we will see these drivers throw their hat in the ring for P5. Taylor and Konieski have to be smart now. How much pressure are you going to put on each other? How hard are you going to fight each other? Do you just really want to go all out for the P5 position? Taylor having a little bit of trouble getting to the apex in the final corner. As they reach the start-finish line, let's actually see what the gap is between him and Vascalampi. It's 1.3 seconds. The gap is closing and closing.
And Suarez managed to get by Granberg. I think Martin had a mistake coming out of the final corner. Actually, yeah. Oh, this is a big moment for Martin. Let's look at the replay here. This is a monster save, even though it loses him a position. We definitely need an onboard at some point on this replay. Oh, he touched the grass on his way in.
I don't know how he didn't, yes, exactly, how he didn't end up in the wall there. Just touched the grass, hits the grass on the other side, just keeps it out of the wall. I think Suarez as well just gonna a big scare there, trying to avoid Granberg. Luckily for Granberg, he can continue. He's still in front of Overtrangere.
We're going to be 1 lap to go now. Bycroft has extended it over Freesia to about... Oh, did Freesia just make a mistake?
Yeah, in the final corner, he had almost the same as Granberg had a few moments ago, just not as severe. Just hit the curb zone a little bit too hard, I think, lost control, slid up, and that has lost him a bit of time. I don't think we have to go to that, but I think the story of today, Joe, is Bycroft. What a race. He didn't have the best qualifying position, but he has race pace. Not only in this race, he's shown it earlier in practice as well. And at the moment, a gap of 3 seconds over Freesia, he has been dominant today at Watkins Glen.
Keep this battle on screen between Kendrick Taylor and Peter Konieczny. We're on board with Kendrick here with a Ferrari, teammate to Steve Bycroft this season, struggling to try and get into that top 5. You have to say this has got to be something of a bittersweet victory for Steve. Now that the championship is already wrapped up, he finally has figured out how to quell his demons and capitalize on the pace that he's had over Gernot for much of the season. Down the backstretch, not going to be a chance for Kendrick this time. Let's head over to Steve Bycroft. 3 seconds a gap. Some of that was helped here on this last lap with a mistake from Gernot Freesia. You have to give credit to Gernot. He kept Steve honest, keeping it to within a second and a half ever since he got past. But in the end, it doesn't matter how close it is. It's only what position you finish in. And Steve Bycroft is going to finish P1 here today in the penultimate round at Watkins Glen.
Freesia behind finishes in P2, and then let's go 10 seconds back to Fernandez. He started the race in P2, lost 1 position, but as he comes out of the final corner of the race, he's thanking his pit crew on the inside there, and I don't blame you, Sergio. P3 and a podium position for Fernandez.
Meanwhile, the battle really for 5th place is not over yet. Taylor's got to be smooth on these last few corners. Kendrick still holding station back there, looking for something, anything, and it's not going to come. But look behind them. Vascalampi under threat from Rob Olenek. Is he close enough he could slingshot by? He's not quite there. Oh my goodness, that was tight between them at the end, separated by less than a tenth. Let's look at that one more time.
Yeah, that really set himself up in the final few corners. You could see it here. Look at the speed that Rob Olenek just has out of the final corner. Way more than Vascalampi. He knows that he has to go to the outside. Smart driving for Vascalampi to just not defend, but make Rob go the longer way around. And in the end, it was enough for Vascalampi to stay in front and get that P7.
Last of the drivers cycling across the line. Everybody who finished was on the lead lap, so lap traffic literally did not come into play. Sam Doby, your only DNF today. We'll actually go through the official results here in just a moment, but for now, we're going to take a quick break and come back with driver interviews. If you watch on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Watkins, Glen. What a race here for the Lotus 79. We asked if we would have a good one with the pressure being off and the championship being over, and I'd say the answer was yes. Steve Bycroft taking the win from starting third. His qualifying might not have been great, but his race pace has once again proved to be phenomenal. This time he overcame his demons and he took the victory. With Gernot Friesche, a small mistake at the very end cost him a little bit of time, hence why you see that 3-second gap. Otherwise, he held on to Steve for much of the race after getting overtaken. And Sergio Fernandez just didn't have the race pace himself. He was way off of it, but still a good solid podium there in third. Nicola Kochi with P4 today and Peter Koneski behind him, a distant fifth, having to hold off Kendrick Taylor there in P6 all race long. They were caught by Timo Vascalompi at the end, but it was just not enough to be able to get the position. Rob Olenek challenging him all the way down to the line in eighth place. Pablo Suarez with a ninth was followed by Martin Granberg, who we understand was racing a little bit under the weather today, had a fever, but still grabbed 10th place here, Johan.
Yeah, great result for Granberg's in these circumstances. Over Trangerate, he finished behind him. Over Trangerate probably saw the rear of a lot of cars today. He was in battles all time long and he finished just outside of the top 10. John Stevens was involved in the battle for a while at the beginning. In the end he had to settle for P12. Stefan Slager, will probably talk with him in a few moments, finishes in P13, stayed in front of Barry West. Timothy Reed, he got the better of Fabian Den in the end. He finished P15, 3 positions up from when he started. Keith Herner comes home in P16. Then we have Fabian Den in P17 and the last driver who finishes on the lead lap and finishes the race, Andrew Kinsella. I'm curious if he was happy with his decision to start from the pits. And the last driver that was classified, Sam Dopey, he crashed out early and comes home in P19.
We've got second place ready to talk to us, Gernot Friesche. Gernot, welcome to the booth. You had the pole, you had the one-lap pace, but we saw this repeatedly this season, that it seems like Steve had the better race pace, and, well, he overcame his demons on you today, and instead it looked like you were the one to make the mistake.
Yeah, exactly. On the other hand, I think Steve really deserves it. He did a fantastic season, so yeah, it was about time. So yeah, I think he did a great job at Nürburgring and today as well. So good result for him. Huge congrats. Congrats to Sergio as well.
You know, usually we would talk about the temperature on the track because it was pretty hot today, but the thing that I noticed that was not quite as usual here on iRacing, you had some fairly high winds. Could you feel that at all in the car?
To be honest, I didn't realize that. I was more concerned about the temperatures because it gets a bit slippery with these high temps. On the other hand, yeah, my setup was nice to drive, maybe except the last couple of laps where it was getting a little bit loose, and also I was pushing a bit too much in the end, so I almost lost it, and yeah, happily take second place.
Well, this is a track known where passing can be a little bit easier because of that slipstream. And next week, though, that's Suzuka. And if you can get in front there, it's, I have to imagine, I mean, do you feel like it's going to be easier to be able to defend at that track?
Yeah, for sure. Watkins Glen is really hard to defend because of the long straight. Steve seemed to have really good speed out of the first corner. Suzuka will be a completely different track, and it's a fantastic track. I think one of the best tracks for the car for sure.
Well, again, congratulations on that, and on the second place. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you some more in Japan in a week's time.
Yeah, hope so too. Bye-bye. See you guys.
That was Gernot Friesche, who took second today, and up next, I believe Johan has caught up with our winner.
Yeah, Steve Bycroft, welcome to the booth. Steve, actually I saw 2 races of you today. I saw the one today and also a few hours ago. Now in both races, you seem to be a little bit behind in qualifying compared to Gernot, but in race pace, you just were so incredibly dominant. What was your secret today?
Yeah, hi guys. Gernot, he's just a great qualifier. So, I mean, he's just, you almost have to concede that he's going to take the pole. And for whatever reason, my race set was just a little bit better, like the first half of the race, you know, so I was able to follow him and then eventually get by, and then it kind of evened out again after.
You got him in the end. You actually won by 3 seconds. You had great race pace. Now, one of the things I was wondering about is the season is now almost over. We have one more race next week. What kind of feeling do you take with you to next season? Feeling that you end on such a high note with just, quite a dominating win here at Watkins Glen?
Oh, I don't know. It's, my pace was pretty good this season, so, that's a positive. I think my main thing is just to keep Gurno from getting bored, because, Nuno's not with us right now, and Matt, he hasn't raced with us the last couple weekends, so I just try to keep things interesting for Gernot, so he doesn't get bored and leave us.
I have to say, you're not only keeping things interesting for him, also for all of us watching, because it was a great battle between you and Fritje. Congratulations with the win here at Watkins Glen.
Thanks a lot, guys.
That was Steve Bycroft, our winner today here in the United States.
And Urka Lindstrom has also caught up with our 14th place finisher, Barry West.
Hello, Barry.
Hello, Urka.
Yeah,
that was...
Okay. Tell us about your race a little bit.
That was hard. I was surprised. I just managed to scrape into the top split. Because as everybody probably knows, my iRacing's taken quite a pounding this season. But I managed to qualify quite well, and I had a race set, so I thought. But I can do 34s in quali trim, and then when you come to the race, I can't even do a 35. So it's, even with the tow, it's really tricky. I was topping out 168. And Stefan, who drove really well, we had a good little ding-dong, but he just gradually pulled away. Along the straight, I was losing top speed, so once I'd lost the tow, and that was it. Then it was just a matter of trying to keep in front of, was it Tim behind? And Keith and Fabian. So, it was a hard race, very hard race. Sorry.
I just wanted to ask you, how about the track conditions? It was quite hot. How it was there?
Yes, it was very hot. Yeah, it's tires weren't 24 psi. Yeah, but it was a bit slippy, and of course you had to adjust accordingly. And by the time I realised, braking a bit early and trying to carry the speed around rather than braking too late and then having a slide. So it's just about trying to be as smooth as you can. But yeah, you could push it by braking later and small slides, which would be quite fast for a couple of laps, but then you just had to ease off and cool the tyres down. So it's that's what I had to do anyway. I just don't know, it was a tricky race, very tricky race. I wish it was a bit cooler.
Yes. Okay, I think now we have a Suzuka in the last week. What you think about the Suzuka? You like it?
Suzuka's one of those classic tracks, isn't it? Yeah, I love it. But those tracks you get proper racing, and it's obviously set up dependent, but that Dunlop curve and the Degners is just frightening. It's very frightening in this car. Yeah, you have to be really committed, and that's the way you win, I suppose. But I suppose at my age now, I'm just taking everything too conservative.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for joining us, and let's see you in the next week, and congratulations for solid result.
Thank you.
That was Barry West, 14th place here today. And that's going to close us out on our interviews. So let's take a quick moment to thank the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. You can see why we love coming back year after year. And also a thank you goes to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to Jumalan, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And also thanks to the team today, Johan, Urka, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Check us out on social media too. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel. Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Gram. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merchandise store linked below in the YouTube description. It's gsrc.storenv.com. And while you're down there, make sure and click that big red subscribe button so that you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, we're heading across the pond to Suzuka. That'll be Sunday, March 1st, 11:30 a.m. Eastern for the season finale. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, see you on the track.